critically at the reports, you see that unemployment rates among the population 15 years and over is 13.4%. Among the population 13 years to 35 is 19.7%. Even worse is the rate of unemployment among young adults, 15 to 24 years. That is 33%. So when you take 3 young adults in Ghana, 1 is definitely unemployed. This is quite alarming in a matter of national security threats, particularly with examples we have seen in other African countries, like in the Arab Spring. What is equally worrying in the report is the fact that more than 46% of the unemployed persons have given up hope. They are no longer looking for jobs, although they are available to work. So indeed, this is something that should tell us that as a country, we need to take a very critical look at our strategies towards employment generation. And when you take a critical look at the jobs in the report, you see that the public sector, which is government, employs 10% of the people that are employed. 13% of the people employed in the formal sector are in the private sector. The rest of the labor market, the employed persons, are in the informal sector, 77%. This data compares directly with previous data we have on the labor market in terms of the GLSS. But when you look at the unemployment data, it is quite a staggering departure from what we find in the GLSS, earlier versions of the data. So this is an indication that the structure of the economy is not changing in response to the need for jobs. Informal sector continues to dominate employment in the country, and it comes with its repercussions. The private sector, which is the engine of growth, is clearly not expanding because it employs only 13% of the employed population. So going forward, how do we achieve inclusive growth and develop the country? A country where everybody is a beneficiary of the growth through employment generation and keep unemployment to the barest minimum. As a country, we need to take a serious look at the structure of the economy and look at the sources. Why does the economy perform well on average in terms of growth, but struggles to generate jobs? Perhaps it is time for us to pause and assess our industrialization strategy over time. Why does it appear not to be having meaningful impact on employment in the country? When you look at the IMF recently released reports on prospects of the African economy, the IMF projects that Ghana will grow at 5.3%, slightly below what government projects at 5.8%. This projection based on the IMF is on the back of expected rise in commodity prices. So we see that our growth consistently have been driven by commodity exports. And that explains why we struggle to generate employment locally. Government growth projections have been based on expected growth in the industrial sector, particularly with manufacturing. This is in the right direction. We hope that specific attention is paid to the manufacturing sector, particularly agro-processing and value addition along the agricultural value chain. Particularly with the onset of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the country stands to lose if we do not position our manufacturing firms to take advantage of opportunities that comes with the free trade area. Indeed, manufacturing is not attractive. And when you speak to business people, It is more attractive to buy and sell in Ghana than to enter into manufacturing. Most of the challenges in the sector are quite daunting. They talk about infrastructure, access to credit, cost of energy. The whole business environment with regulation is not friendly for manufacturing activity. And that is why most people would rather go outside, produce goods and with local names and bring them onto the market to sell. We don't have to look far for examples. You can talk of tomato paste, rice, and all the others that have local names. They are produced externally. And those are jobs that we are creating for other people and not for ourselves. For manufacturing to thrive, the country and for the country to attract foreign direct investment into the sector, we need a stable macroeconomic environment. And with stable macroeconomic environment, we are talking about the interest rates, which is the cost of capital. That is something that we need to take a look at. For some reason, interest rates struggle to come down, although consistently you find that prime rates, which should be an indicator, are consistently reviewed downwards. They don't reflect in the market rates. A stable currency is a requirement in our industrialization drive, and we also need to keep inflation under control. So on macroeconomic fundamentals that are critical for growth of manufacturing and our industrialization drive, first of all, we need to also look at our sustainable debt levels. We need to keep our borrowing in check so that government is not forced to go to borrow in the private sector, to go and crowd out the private sector. And also, even if we borrow outside, it has significant implications on our exchange rate. So the bottom line really is for government to keep its budget in check. Keep its budget in check in terms of revenue and expenditure. On revenue mobilization, a lot needs to be done because we are currently underperforming as a country. We are currently looking at a tax to GDP ratio of between 15 and 17%. The ideal situation is something close to 25%. So the question is, how are we equipping GRA to take advantage of opportunities, technology, to tax people and bring people consistently into the tax net? That is something we need to take a critical look at. On the expenditure side, prudent management of the public purse is required. Good value for money in government projects and programs is critical. And indeed, on the expenditure side, the caveat is a saved expenditure is equivalent to a revenue end. So government ought to show leadership in that regard.